Hello everybody and welcome to DIY Crafts. Today we are crafting in the kitchen. If you've been here before, super fun. I'm not teaching you guys how to cook something today, I'm sorry. But I am teaching you how to make something with something that you already cooked. Intrigued? Okay, so here's the deal. I have a love for bacon. So I cook a lot of bacon, and I also have a love for breakfast, which is my favorite meal of the day that I could eat every time of the day, including at midnight, which is weird. But I have a bunch of bacon fat here, and I don't know what to do with it. There are 50 million and one things that you can do with bacon, but one of my all-time favorite things to do with bacon is to make my own soap. Weird, I know, sounds disgusting. But once you render bacon fat or clean it, it's basically just like any other lard that you would use to make soap. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to take bacon and make it into some awesome, delightful, wonderfully smelling body soap. So if you are ready, these are the things you're going to need. You are going to need bacon soap. You're going to need lye. And I do preface that if you are going to use this lye or do any type of soap making with lye, there are some safety precautions that you should most definitely follow. 1, you should wear safety glasses. 2, you should wear long sleeves. And 3, you should have some type of vent. And I do have a stove vent, it is on, that is the background noise you may or may not hear. So I've already gone ahead and mixed the lye with the water, because the temperature takes quite a while to get down to temp. So let me go into my ingredients list and I'll explain this whole chemical reaction that happens when you make soap. So you're gonna need lye, you're gonna need water, and you're gonna need some kind of fat or oil. You do not need lard to make soap, but I have a bunch of bacon grease, might as well use it, right? So this is what I decided to use. I have bacon grease right here. I have coconut oil for its wonderful moisturizing qualities. I have extra virgin olive oil, once again for its wonderful moisturizing qualities. And I have pure canola oil. Same thing, it adds a little conditioning, it adds a little bit of cleansing, maybe a little bubbly to your soap. So what you need to make soap is lye and some kind of oils and fat. If you are indeed using lye, again, just make sure you're doing the safety precautions. I do highly recommend that this is a craft for ages 18 and up. If you are younger than 18, have an adult with you. I almost demand an adult with you, just to make sure that you're doing it the right way. And if you're at all worried, do it outside. No harm, no foul. If you do it outside, worst case, you just run. All right, my safety precautions are over. Let's get down to it. So there is a wonderful website called soapcalc.net. I will show you. It is called soapcalc.net. And what happens is it gives you this wonderful chart. And you take this chart and you input, right here in the center, you input the amounts of materials that you have. So for me, the things that I wanted to have in my soap was lard, or in this case, bacon grease, coconut oil, olive oil, canola oil. And what happens is you get the option to play around with these numbers. So if you've never made soap before, this is the super easy way to do it. You don't have to follow someone else's recipe and try to find all these wild and crazy, out of control ingredients. You can make soap by what you have at home. And you can make soap simply by bacon and lye. Period, end of story, 2 ingredients, done. But we're going a step further. We're adding some olive oil, coconut oil, and canola oil to give it that cleansing, bubbly, conditioning values, okay? So the cool thing about the soapcalc.net is it allows you to put in all of your ingredients. So I've added all my ingredients, and then it says, well, what percentages of each ingredient would you like to use? And this is your opportunity to play with math. So pretty fun. You get to learn, you get to do some science, some math, all that fun stuff together, and craft. Woo, super cool. All right, so I went around and I played with this a little bit, and I decided that I wanted 5% olive oil, I wanted 45% of my bacon grease. I wanted 30% of my coconut oil and 20% of my canola oil. And what ends up happening is once you put all these numbers into the soap calc, it gives you ranges for where your soap's gonna fall. So it tells you, is your soap gonna be hearty? Well, you want it between their specific ranges. Otherwise it's gonna just fall apart when you try and pick it up and it's not gonna be a bar. Not fun. You want it to be cleansing. You want it to have a good cleansing value. Otherwise you're just using soap and you're not getting clean. So again, if you want it to fall into those ranges. So I highly recommend, if you're at home watching this, go ahead, Google soapcalc.net, go on, figure it out what I'm talking about, and then you'll understand that you want certain values for conditioning, bubbly, creaminess. And then you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna create your soap recipe and you're gonna have fun. And if you don't like it, try it again next time. The cool thing with this recipe is it basically allows you to print out the recipe and it tells you all these values of how it's gonna come out. So, I really wanted to make soap with bacon. I put all my ingredients into the soap calc recipe and voila, I am now going to show you guys how to make soap. So, I've gone ahead and I've measured out about, well actually to a science, to a T, I've measured out 2.3 ounces of lye, and then I put the 2.3 ounces of lye into 6.8 ounces of water, and that's what this is. So what happens when you add lye to water? Well, you get a chemical reaction. When you add lye to water, the water heats up to dramatic temperatures. So when I first added this lye to this water, it was upwards of 200 degrees. Super hot, super caustic. You don't want to touch it. So when you're using lye in water, you always want to make sure that you're wearing gloves, and when you're adding it, you are wearing glasses, some kind of safety protection, and long sleeves. So I will tell you right now, my lye in water is still pretty hot. It's at 133 degrees. And I added this about 10-15 minutes ago. So I'm gonna put this back over here, over the fan, let it cool down a bit, and I'm gonna continue mixing my other ingredients. So I need to add oils. So some fun things about soap. It's called saponification. And what ends up happening is you end up getting an exothermic chemical reaction, which is heat. And then what this means is when you add your lye and water solution to your fat, which in this case is going to be bacon fat, then you get another reaction. And if you do your measurements correctly and to the T, what ends up happening is the sodium hydroxide, aka the lye, converts the oils and fat to soap. So let's begin. I have a glass bowl here, and I have this fancy digital measuring unit thing here, scale. So I'm gonna go ahead and zero my scale out so that my glass bowl is not accounted for. I'm gonna wait ever so patiently. Okay, so my scale now doesn't exist. This glass bowl doesn't exist according to my scale. So now I can add stuff to it and voila, it'll give me the precise measurement minus the glass bowl. So I'm going to take a spoon. I'm going to take my bacon grease that I've rendered already. So when you want to render bacon grease, super easy. Take all your bacon grease, put it in a quart of boiling water, boil out all that ick, all that bacon smell, all the bacon particles, and then let it cool. When your bacon is cool, the bacon grease will float to the top and the water will float to the bottom, and you can just drain out the water and do this repeatedly until you get clean, clear water. So I've done this about 3 times. It's super clear, super clean. Still has a mild bacon flavor scent to it, but that's okay. So according to my recipe, I'm going to add 7.2 ounces. So I'm gonna make sure that I am indeed on ounces, and I'm gonna go ahead and scoop 7.2 ounces into this bowl. And then I'm just gonna double check it and make sure it adds up to grams, the right proper number, because what's gonna happen is you wanna make sure your measurements are almost exactly. Otherwise, your soak process is not going to work. All right, so I have 7.2. All right, so I have 7.2 ounces of bacon grease in here. This also amounts to 206 grams, which means 204 grams, which is exactly where I need to be. So whether you're measuring grams or ounces, it's either 204 grams or 7.2 ounces of bacon grease. Step 1, awesome. I'm gonna clear this out again. So then it zeroes out my bacon grease in my glass bowl. Sweet. And now I'm going to add 0.8 ounces or 22.6 grams of olive oil. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this right on out. So this is my 5% of olive oil, which is equal to 22.68 grams. So we're gonna go ahead and add that nice and slowly until I get to my 22.6. Woo! 22. I went a little bit over and I don't want to do that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take just a little bit off the top. Perfect, that's my 22. All right, so I got 22 grams of olive oil. Next up on my list is I need coconut oil. So I need about 30% of coconut oil. And I'm gonna go ahead. Oh my God, all right. I have coconut oil. Once again, I'm gonna zero this out so that I can get an exact number here. And I want 136 grams or 4.8 ounces. So I'm gonna switch this to ounces. And I want 4.8 ounces. That's 1.4, we're gonna be here for a while. 2.2. We're getting there, we're getting there. I want 4.8. 3.1. 3.4. 4.2. I need 4.8, so I'm super close. 4.4, 4.5, we're getting there. 4.7, ooh! So close. 4.8, all right, sweet. 4.8. Let me grab a towel. All right, and then the last thing that I want to add here is 3.2 ounces of the canola oil. So once again, I'm going to zero out my scale. And I want to slowly add 3.2 ounces of canola oil. So here we go. 7, 9, 1.1, 1.4. Going for 3.2 here. So I'm at 3, and I just want that 0.2. 0.1. 0.2, all right, 3.2 ounces. All right, so once you have all your oils mixed together, you're gonna go ahead and put them on your double boiler. You don't have a a double boiler, you can make it yourself. Just a pot of water and then the glass bowl on top. I'm gonna go ahead and start my heat. and I'm gonna let this melt down. So, in order to make soap, you want your temperatures of both your oils and your sodium hydroxide or your lye and water mix to be approximately the same temperature. And ideally you want to work in numbers of 90 degrees to a max of 110 degrees because you don't want really, 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 really hot soap, especially if it splashes back at you. So we've just gone ahead and added all of these ingredients. I'm going to show you guys real quick what the soap calculator looks like because it's super fun while we wait for this to heat up and while we wait for that to work. So if I go to soapcalc.net, I just want to show you guys what it looks like. Calc.net. Alrighty. Soap calculator. So when you get to your soap calculator, it looks a lot like this. I don't know. Can you guys see this? Ooh. Let's see here. It looks like this, where you're gonna have to put in your values of soap here. So you put in all the values that you want. You have a list that you can select from. And what ends up happening is you're gonna just put in your values for things that you have at home or at hand. You don't need palm oil to make soap. All you need is some type of oil, some type of fat, and voila. As long as you have lye, you can do it. Other ways to make soap if you want to. If you're not comfortable doing the lye and water because of the chemical reaction, because it heats up, if that makes you any of the least bit nervous, there are other ways to make soap. A couple of ways is for you to use melt and pour soap. There are so many recipes out there. You literally buy pretty much soap in a bar already and you melt it down and then add your own ingredients. And you add your own oils, you add your own fats, and then you add your own fragrances. And speaking of fragrances, we have to add ours. So we're gonna do that and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. The other way you can make soap too is in liquid form by using a cast-style soap, and you can make your own liquid soap, liquid detergent, hand soap, hair soap, whatever. And the base for the liquid soap is cast-style soap. And then you can add other ingredients like honey or beeswax, and then your fragrances to flavor it up or fragrant it up. All right, so I have a little glass container right here. I have my scale right here. And the last thing that I want to do, I'm going to zero out my scale here for my glass container. And I just want to add some kind of fragrance to my soap because right now it's going to smell like nothing. My bacon really doesn't smell like anything because I cleaned it. It's got a slight bacon tinge, but you really can't smell it, and you certainly won't smell it after it mixes with the lye. It'll be non-existent. The only thing you're going to smell is a nice soap fragrance. So if I don't want to just smell like soap, I need some kind of scent to go along with it. So I have options. I can do some peppermint. I can do some lavender. I can do some tea tree. And then I have patchouli. I think what I'm gonna go with though is, let's see here. I have a grapefruit oil that smells, I think, like grapefruit. It smells like grapefruit. So we're gonna go with that. And the soap calculator that I keep mentioning also gives you a fragrance ratio. So I want 0.5 ounces, not a lot. A little bit goes a long way here. So I'm gonna go ahead and zero this out, bring my scale to ounces, and then just shake it until I get to 0.5. Which I might mix some of my grapefruit with another scent. I'm not sure if I'll have enough, but we'll see. And right now my soap, this whole time I've been talking, my soap has only dropped several degrees. So right now I'm at 119. Remember I said I need to get it to that 110 area, so I'm 9 degrees high. So if I keep motor mouthing, we'll get there. If you guys were with us last week, as soon as I'm done shaking this scent into this glass container, I will show you guys the finished product of last week's craft, which actually came out super cool. So my double boiler over here is contemplating boiling, but as it's contemplating boiling, my things are melting, so that's good. Alrighty. I think that is the end of this one, so I'm gonna add a little bit of something else here. What else do I got? I have sweet orange, I have lavender, I have bergamot, I have clary sage. What goes with grapefruit? I think a little bit of orange. Grapefruit and orange soap. Sounds pretty good to me. Let's roll with it. These ones don't like to. Just kidding. I have another orange. Just kidding. Alright. Grapefruit and orange. We're going for it. Nothing like a little grapefruit and orange here. Grapefruit, orange, and there we go. That is our 0.5. No, just kidding. I think I'm almost empty. So if you don't have a scale, you need one to make soap. It's really your only option here. I'm using a digital scale. I'll show you in a second. Okay, here we go. Woo! So my fragrance, woo! I'm gonna leave that off to the side because you cannot add it while your soap is super hot. You need to wait for your soap to cool down a little bit. You also need to wait for your soap to do that whole saponification chemical reaction, which we're getting to because right now we are at, we're at 116 degrees, so we got 6 degrees left to go. I am using a digital scale. It basically gives me when I have some kind of weight on it. Hold on. No one likes it when it's flat. So I am using a digital scale. It allows me to go from ounces to pounds to grams to kilograms. So the soap recipe that you can get from soapcalc.net will give you your measurements in pounds, ounces, and grams. So depending on your scale, you should be able to either do it in grams, in pounds, or in ounces. And since we're working with really small measurements here, I mean 0.8 ounces, 7.2 ounces, it's very small because we're only doing 1 whole pound of soap. You're gonna need those small measurements. So, I'm gonna take my rubber spatula and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna mix my oils here. And I just want them to be a liquid state. They don't need to be super, super hot. They just need to be, once again, the same temperature as my sodium hydroxide. And right now my coconut oil is so close to being fully melted. Let's see here. I'm at 104 degrees, so I don't want to go too much higher because right now my sodium hydroxide or my lye is at 110. So if I can get all of my ingredients to melt down and keep it at this temperature, that would be perfect. In the meantime though, while this is melting just a little bit more, it's got a super tiny bit left. I want to show you the project from last week. So I hung up my project. So last week we made mountains with string. So this is how it came out when we were all finished. I know it was super hard to show you guys upside down and I didn't really have the greatest camera angle, but if you take a bunch of nails, put them in this lovely dimension and then just string art them, voila. So make every day an adventure. And today we are adventuring with soap, yay! Okay, so other things you're going to need to finish your soap making project while we have the oils heating up here, and we're so close, I'd say I'm gonna turn it off. So, let's see the temperature here. I'm at 113, 110, that's perfect. I'm at 112 here. Alright. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the glass bowl from the double boiler here. So, I don't want it to heat up any longer. I want it to kind of cool down a little bit, so I'm gonna get it off my double boiler. Alrighty. And I'm just going to put it right here on this thing. I'm gonna move my scale out of the way. You guys can see this pretty well, I think. Geez, thank God for counter space because I'm running out of it. Alright, so while my oils are at this temperature, I'm at 113 for my lye and water. I'm at 111, 110 for my oil, so I'm super close. I just need my lye to drop down just a little bit more. So, fun thing, we're gonna watch a chemical reaction here. I also like to add just a little bit of honey to my soap. Honey has so many beneficial qualities, I can't even tell you. There's a giant long list. Google it. All I can tell you, amazing. And I am a beekeeper, so maybe I'm just totally biased. I don't know. So I have this honey. Unfortunately, this honey is not really fit for consumption, and I will tell you why. I mixed this honey with the wax, or I got this honey from the leftover wax, which means that there was things that happened here and they mixed. Do you have suggestions on how to wrap fancy, like for gift giving? Yes, we will get there for sure. Okay, so I digress. Honey, super awesome. If you are working in pound increments of soap making, the max, one more time, the max amount of honey you want to add to a pound of soap is 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon goes a long way. But the crazy thing, 1 teaspoon is going to make my 110 degrees of lye and water skyrocket. Why? Science. I know, crazy. So I'm gonna take my 1 teaspoon of honey, and we're gonna watch this crazy reaction here. So I'm at 112 degrees. You can kind of see I'm steaming here. I'm just gonna slowly add this honey, and you're gonna watch the temperature skyrocket. So as soon as it mixes in, sorry guys, I'm gonna do this over my stove just for fear of making sure that I'm doing it right, and ventilation. So when you add sugars to lye, what happens is the sugars heat up, and the reason I waited for the lye to drop down to a feasible temperature, approximately 110 degrees, is because once you add sugar to lye, it heats up once again. And I want the lye to be the same temperature as my oils, or a little bit more or a little bit less. But if you wait for the lye to cool down a bit, it makes it a lot easier to add those sugars. And what ends up happening is because lye is heating up the honey, it actually also changes the color. So if you wanted a colored soap or a slightly tinted soap, add a little bit of honey. So not only is it beneficial for its honey properties, but it's also beneficial because it gives your soap a slight tint. If you take a look at my oils are just plain Jane yellow, and what's gonna happen, it's gonna dry like a white color. So if I add a little bit of honey to it, it's gonna make that just a little bit better. And this is actually really funny. So I did this yesterday, and I added the water and honey together and then added the lye, and oh my God, it was hot. It was like 220 degrees. So, lesson learned, wait for your lye and water mix to drop down to approximately 110 degrees, and then add the honey. It didn't do any damage to my soap, so I wasn't extremely worried about it. And there we go. So I have let's see. I have 114 degrees, so it only went up about 4 degrees, which isn't bad. And I have 110 here, so I think we are good and ready to get on our mixing. Before we do that, I'm gonna turn my fan off so you guys can hear me a little bit better. You need something to put your soap in. I know, right? Crazy. So I've taken this box of sweets, guilty pleasure, I know, of Au Caramels. I'm advertising here, terrible. You can only find these in Maine. Sorry, they're so good though. Anyway, I digress. You need something to put your soap in. You can easily buy your own molds, and this is really, really where that whole like fancy decoration and gift giving goes. Buy some fancy silicone molds. Get some fancy silicone molds. You can get really cool honeycomb ones, heart-shaped ones, star-shaped ones. You can do squares and put fun fancy designs in them, or buy a stamp, whatever. Or, in this case, you can roll with what I'm doing. Grab a plain Jane cardboard box, line it with plastic wrap, and this is what you're gonna pour your soap into. And then once your soap hardens, because right now we're in a liquid state, and I'm gonna talk a little bit faster so I don't lose my temperatures, you'll be able to cut it up into those beautiful bar shapes if you follow the recipe correctly. All right, so I'm gonna move some of this stuff out of the way. I have my thing here. So in order to mix your soap with your lye, you need one of these fancy things. It is just so you can get to that soap or saponification area. And that's when you get like the consistency of cake batter. So that's what we're rolling with here. So I'm gonna take my honey, lye, water, and I'm gonna add it finally to my bacon grease. Make sure it's all in there, it looks wonderful. And then I'm gonna take this fancy thing and I'm just gonna start mixing it around. Going for here, sorry for the noise guys, I don't know how to avoid that. What you're going for here is, so when you pull this out, it's more of a cake batter, it's sticking to your blender, or the drippings are kind of sitting on top of the soap, and that is what's called a trace. So it leaves a trace in your soap, and that's when you know that you're ready to pour your soap into your mold. So this might take a minute. You gotta bear with me a little bit here. But once this is done and I put it in the mold, I will show you guys what the sticks actually look like. I will also preface, I am not a professional soap maker. I just like to experiment, and this is by far the funnest experiment I've ever done. The soap calc is by far the best thing that I've come across online. You can learn all about soap making from many, many different articles and many different homesteaders and other people that love to do what I'm doing. I'm going to show you guys what the final product looks like. So that way you don't have to see me just blend soap, because that's kind of boring. All right, so hold on. Let me show you what it looks like. All right. So I clearly have a sweets problem. The last container I used was a Swiss roll container. Same concept. Layer it with plastic wrap so your soap doesn't stick to it. And what's gonna happen is I just made these yesterday, so they're not quite ready to go out yet. But once you let this soap sit in your mold, I'm gonna put it in the freezer for about 4 to 24 hours. And then I'm gonna pull it out, and then I'll be able to cut it into bars. So I have my pretty fancy soap bar. I didn't do anything wild and crazy with these soap bars because they're just for me. I don't really care what they look like, so they're not cut beautiful. They're just plain Jane cut. Right now, it smells super good, and it is tinted with that honey. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. So it's tinted with honey. It's got a nice little cream color, and this is Manly soap. I put patchouli in it. It is another essential oil that has like a manly smell to it. I don't know how to explain patchouli. Also, if you're trying to make a soap for your man friends or the man in your life, if you don't have patchouli, bergamot smells really good. If you don't have bergamot, just plain Jane peppermint smells really good. And if your man is really dirty, tea tree oil has a wonderful scent, and it also has some extra additional cleansing properties that the man in your life might really like, or your man friends might really like. So bergamot, patchouli, or tea tree oil, those are your go-to for men. This soap for me is all about the grapefruit and the orange, because I want to smell like the fruit. Who doesn't? And I'm just gonna finish mixing up my soap, pour it into my mold, pop it in the freezer, again, 4 to 24 hours. You want it to reach a trace, which is again that cake batter consistency. If it doesn't reach that, don't worry, you didn't do anything wrong. Go ahead, pour it in your mold, pop it in the freezer, and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, then go back to your soap calculator, try a different recipe. This is the funnest thing that you guys can do. Create your own soap. If you're not comfortable doing this, by all means, go online. There are thousands of soap recipes. The kicker for me with the soap recipes I found online is I have bacon. I have bacon grease. I want to figure out a way to make soap with the bacon grease. And so far I've made 2 successful soap recipes. The first one I ever made smelled kind of funky, and that was because I didn't render the fat long enough. So the more times that you can boil the fat and drain the water, the better your soap quality is going to come out. You can always buy lard from somewhere else or get it from somewhere else. But also, this is like the age-old way of making soap with lard. Lard and lye, that's how it worked. That's how they made soap. So I hope you really enjoyed this. Next week or the following week, I'll show you guys how to, actually, the soap takes about 4 to 6 weeks for you to use it. The reason behind this is because the lye takes about 4 to 6 weeks to transform that fat into soap. So while these soap bars look ready to use, they're not. They're still super caustic. They will burn your skin. Not cool, don't do it, don't try it. So you have to put a date on this. Unfortunately, we have to wait 4 to 6 weeks before we can use this. The longer you wait, sometimes the better, especially if you're nervous about burning your skin. But what you can also do, 4.5 weeks, do a test run. Pull this out of the thing, try it on your hands. If you're good, then it's good, it's ready to go. But unfortunately, with cold pressed soap, the way we are making it, you do have to wait 4 to 6 weeks. If you're not patient, by all means, do the melt and pour soap or the cast iron soap, just as cool. And then the more batches you make, the cooler it is, because by the time your 4th week is up, or maybe by the time your 1st week is up, you have a batch of soap ready to go. That's pretty much it. Next week and the next coming weeks, we're going to share a super fun craft. I know, funner than this. Who would have thought playing with bacon could be super fun? I'm going to show you guys how to make your own t-shirt designs using quite a different variety of means. So for the next 3 weeks, you're gonna hopefully learn 3 different ways to create your own t-shirts. So join me next week, 3 o'clock. I will show you the first way to do your own screen printing design of a t-shirt. Until then, any questions on the soap making craziness, I will totally answer them. I will put in the comments the soap calculator so you guys can play around with some ratios and see if it's something you want to do. I hope you enjoyed my crafting in the kitchen, even though we're not eating anything. All right, see you all next week.